It's great to welcome back to the program Chris Hadnagy, the founder and CEO of Social Engineer LLC, and also an adjunct professor of social engineering for the University of Arizona. Also, author of the book Human Hacking: Win Friends, Influence People, and Leave Them Better Off for Having Met You. Chris, always great to talk to you.
Oh, great to talk to you too again, David.
So many might recognize Win Friends and Influence People to reference to the great Dale Carnegie book. Sort of really should be. It's important reading, I feel like, for everybody. It contains a lot of interesting information. What is the connection between the title of your book and the Dale Carnegie book?
So I love that book, right? I
Yeah.
really do. And like you said, I think it should be required reading in school because it has so many great principles in it. But if some of us don't know, it was written in the 1930s.
Right.
So it's a really old book. And it's just like a homage to Carnegie and saying, hey, I have some new principles that we can use, some new techniques for the modern era that are all taken from my work as a social engineer. And let's see how we could keep that same principle he had, being kind to people, really getting to know them, learning how to communicate, but bring it to the 21st century. So it's really an ode to him.
And in the past, you and I have talked about different ways in which social engineering can be used. I guess I would say for bad, in the sense of used to scam people, used to defeat physical security, and you work in testing physical security and cybersecurity at different companies, et cetera. But there's also sort of like another side to social engineering, which is simply like better understanding how to get along with people, how to relate to people, et cetera. There's a flip side to it.
There is. And it was only after I was doing that part, the security part, for about a decade that I said, I wonder what happens if I just use this same thing I did to break in this building, but do it when I'm at the checkout line, or if I'm just waiting for coffee, or I'm at a store and somebody's angry. Can I diffuse that situation? And I just started trying these things little by little, and without manipulating people, without having to force someone into doing something they didn't want to do. I found that you can communicate with people and get almost anything you want just by being nice, kind, and empathetic. And that's how this book came about.
I've said to people on my show before and in other circumstances that one of the experiences that most sort of leveled up my ability to build rapport and relate to people was working in sales at the now defunct electronics chain Circuit City, where I started when I was 16 years old. And you had all sorts of different people coming in, many already angry because of some bad experience they had, people who they don't know whether you can actually help them figure out what laptop to buy for their kid or whatever the case may be. It's an incredibly valuable skill to have, to know how to very quickly relate to people and build rapport. Can you talk about sort of some of the principles? And again, we're not talking about manipulating people. We're just talking about relating to people.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, that last point you brought up, because that's why at the very end of that title I put, and leave them feeling better for having met you.
Right.
Because the mission is, you can go out and use these principles for bad. You can. And you can manipulate people. You can get them to do things they don't want to do. But if you leave that one thought in your head, which is, anything I do right now, I'm going to make sure you feel better when we're done interacting, that you're going to go, man, that was a great conversation. I like that guy.
Right.
If I do that, then I'm not going to manipulate you. Right. So let's just think of Robert Cialdini's principles of influence. We could take one. Right. Let's use liking. Liking is an easy one. Right. So he makes this statement that people like people who are like them, and people like people who like them. So I can fake it and I can be all nice to you and smiley. But then later on, you hear me go, oh, man, I really hate that guy. And now you feel bad. You don't feel good. So then you're like, oh, he manipulated me. He got me to do something and he didn't even like me. That's not cool. Or I can learn to say, I'm going to pick something out about this person I don't know, and I'm going to be interested in them. And I really am. And I'm going to want to know more about you. And you're going to tell me about that. Now, later on, you're going to think, man, I met this great guy at that coffee shop and we had an amazing conversation for complete strangers. And it's that simple, where you could use that same principle. You can manipulate someone, or you can change the way you communicate and you can influence someone and really communicate in a more holistic way, building rapport and making friends that may be short term or long term. But either way, you walk away with an amazing interaction with a complete stranger.
Now, I think that there are many, I know in my audience, but out there in the general public, who they hear this conversation or they read Dale Carnegie's book and they say, I'm an introvert. This stuff doesn't work for me. This is horrifying. These are the last types of things that I want to be doing. And we do see actually that in CEOs, for example, introversion is underrepresented relative to
Yes.
the general population. There's a question, right, as to how, sort of that. What about that? What about the
Yeah.
fact that for a lot of people, this entire way of thinking about relating to others is just very unappetizing?
Yeah, that's an awesome question because my COO at Social Engineer, he is a massive introvert, and we always talk about this because he's one of the leading social engineers, and he goes and breaks in the buildings, communicates with people, does all this stuff. We always talk about, okay, how do you do this? How do you get there? So the first step is you have to, as an introvert, you have to have a desire to change, right? And you really do. It has to be from you. It can't be because I tell you to do it, or they hear something on a show. That has to be like, okay, look, I just want to try something new,
Hmm.
because it's that desire to step out of your comfort zone that is the first step. Now, where I see a lot of people who are introverts fail is they hear this conversation and they go, okay, I'm going to go out and do it. And they pick the whole thing, right? I'm going to go out and do this whole thing. And now it's scary. Maybe they fail a little and then they go, I knew I couldn't do it. Don't do that. Pick one thing. Say, hey, today when I go into Starbucks, I'm going to get one person's first name. That's it. Start small. So I'm going to get one person's first name. So now I'm standing in line and you're in front of me and I'm an introvert and I go, hey, is that the new iPhone? I was thinking of upgrading. Do you like that? Is it good? Do you have any problems with it? And they'll talk your ear off, and then you go, man, thanks. Hey, I'm Chris. You shake my hand, go, I am Dave. Great. Now we could part ways, and I accomplished that one goal. I asked you a question. I got your first name. Now next time, say, now I'm going to get someone's full name, right? And you give yourself little incremental steps
Hmm.
instead of saying, I'm going to go do this whole thing. And what you'll find is eventually it will get easier and easier. But if you're not naturally a person who likes to just go out and talk to strangers, then don't throw yourself in the deep end, right? You start swimming, you stay where you can stand still.
Now,
So do it little.
the flip side of this, in thinking about your expertise in fishing and vishing and all these different things, is sometimes the reason people get sucked into scams is because the person who's scamming them has exactly the skills that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
They're hey,
Yes.
that was a great experience. I ended
Yeah.
up feeling good about that. I like this person. They seem trustworthy. So what about the other side, which is being equipped to protect yourself from people who may do
Yeah.
exactly the things you're saying, but with subterfuge, so to speak?
Yes. No, that's an awesome question. So here's what I tell people, because sometimes I'll hear people give suggestions for protection, but they make us not human.
Hmm.
And we can't do that. We can't. I mean, first of all, we can't. You can't control your emotional output. You're a person.
Yep.
So if you feel fear, or if you feel happy, or if you see someone that you think is attractive, your body's going to react in a way, and you're not going to be able to control it, right?
Right.
So what I tell people is if you could stay self-aware in a conversation, and when I start to feel emotional about something, whatever that emotion is, happy, fear, sadness, whatever, to analyze quickly, is what I'm being asked to do next dangerous or not? Right. So let's say I'm the introvert standing in line with my brand new iPhone,
Yeah.
and you come up behind me and you're the introvert that's going to have a talk with me. And you say, hey, is that the brand new iPhone? Like, I was thinking of upgrading and I don't really want to talk to you. But I'm now self-aware and I go, why would he ask me that? But you said, oh, he's going to try to upgrade. Okay, well, what you're asking me is not anything dangerous. So I go, yeah, this is the new iPhone. And now if you said, hey, can I hold it? Can I see it? Now, I don't know. I feel a little weird, right? Why is a stranger asking me to hand you my phone? So I'm like, well, I don't really feel comfortable with that with COVID and everything. Sorry. But, I'll show it to you. Now I could be self-aware with that and say, I don't feel comfortable with that level of interaction. But you're just asking me about my phone. You're not asking me for my phone number or credit cards or anything. Then I can continue that conversation. So it's a matter of staying self-aware during the conversation to make sure you don't give anything out that could put you in danger.
And that's exactly, I feel like, and I'm curious to see what you think, that's exactly what the good scammer social engineer is probably good at, which is maybe even delaying the asks that raise red flags
Yeah.
until enough trust has been built where the mark would say, I don't know, it's been an hour. I've known this person for a month and it's all been fine. So, and maybe that's where the difficulty comes with the more sophisticated scams.
True. And, I just read a story. It was about a couple months ago. This poor widowed woman lost $114,000 in a romance scam.
Mm.
It didn't happen overnight. They were quote unquote dating online, and this guy took her for a couple thousand, 5,000, then 10,000, and incrementally got more and more and more. A year or so into it, she's out $114,000. This
Wow.
poor woman. Yeah, so you're right. They build the relationship because the principle of influence is that we talked about before from Cialdini or rapport. You will give more to someone who you trust more.
Right.
So they can't come up to you and say, "Hey, Dave, give me 114K," and you're like, "Heck no, man!" But if all of a sudden we're best friends, we're like blood brothers, and you trust me with everything, well, maybe now you would part with that if I really need it and you have it. So they wait to build that relationship to do the ask.
Hey, to talk about something from the last sort of year and a half related to all of this, what are we seeing in terms of scamming and phishing, et cetera, related to COVID? I mean, the one thing I've seen is calls, sort of like the Social Security calls, but related to the COVID stimulus. We were seeing that for a little while,
Yeah.
but it's sort of just a version of something we've seen before. What else are we seeing?
So because this is such a global thing, normally when we see some kind of catastrophe, it's very localized, like the flood in Louisiana or the earthquake in Haiti or something like that, where you go, okay, this is localized, and then they attack that group of people.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. This is global. So what we're seeing is that these attacks are happening all over to everyone, and they're very fear-based. So click here to download this app to see who has COVID in your area. That's a big one. They want to take over your phone. Emails coming from your work saying, "Hey, we need you to install this program to work from home." Right? Then you like the phone calls where this is a huge thing. Think about it. People working in the office. Now you got mom, dad, and two kids all trying to find a place at home to work. So you're working from your bedroom, your kitchen table, somewhere else, and you're working more than you ever were before. Now you get a call, someone that says they're from IT. "Hey, listen, we got to put a patch on your machine so you can connect to the VPNs while you're, at home." And people will install programs. And this is how we're seeing major breaches occur. Phone, email, and SMS have gone through the roof, and now you add to that Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T have all been breached in the last 12 months. Your phone number's out there, my phone number's out there. This is why we're seeing an increase in phone calls and text messages all over.
Is there any are there blanket recommendations that take people out of having to make sort of like one-on-one decisions as frequently? Like, for example, I no longer pick up my phone at all unless I know exactly who's calling me. And it's for a bunch of different reasons, including that people who don't like me have found my phone number.
Yeah.
But also because overwhelmingly, if I don't recognize the number, if it's a real call, they're going to leave a voicemail.
Yes.
And if it's not, I never hear back. So like that would be one thing that I do.
Yeah.
Are there other blanket things everybody can just make regular practices?
Yeah, these will seem a little technical, but I will say them just because I think that's a very important topic. First is I encourage everyone to use a password manager. Because the issue with the phone calls and stuff is eventually we're going to answer a call or we may fall for something. But if we use a password manager, then we don't have the same password on every website.
Yeah.
And they're easy to change and control. But even if you do that, the next thing is vitally important, and that's to use multi-factor authentication on everything that allows you. And if you have a choice, don't use the one that sends you a text message. Use the one that lets you use an app, like Duo or Authy or Microsoft Authenticate or something like that, because they need to have access to your physical phone in order to get that. And if they have that, you already have bigger problems, right? So those two things alone, and there's a ton of others, but those two things alone could save so many people. And then the third thing I'll say, and this is something that we can do for free in America, which is you could put a freeze on your credit with all three major credit bureaus.
Right.
And you can do that. You don't have to pay a service. It's easy. It takes 5 minutes, and you can unfreeze it in 5 minutes. And I suggest everyone do that, because if you have a password manager, multi-factor authentication, and your account is locked, people, even if they steal your data, they're not going to be able to use it. So that keeps you from having to worry, boy, did I just mess up? Did I give someone the wrong thing? And it can keep you nothing will keep you hacker proof, but it could keep you relatively safe.
Now, in terms of just the incoming phone calls, Is there sometimes you get legit phone calls
Yeah.
because there really has been, your credit card calls because there's a
Yeah.
charge they want to confirm, or I don't know if banks really call people frequently. My bank doesn't call me, but I'm guessing banks make phone calls sometimes for real. So is there some overarching principle that can be applied to any incoming phone call to prevent falling, even if it's 1 out of 1,000 that you fall for?
Yeah. So I do exactly what you said, which is I let them go to voicemail, even if it looks legit. Or if I do pick it up, and let's just say it's my bank, and they go, "Hey, this is your bank. We have some weird charges we need to verify."
Yeah.
I say, "Hey, I can't talk right now. I'll call you back." I do not call the number on the phone. I take my card out of my wallet. I call the toll-free number, and I say, "Hey, someone just called me from the bank saying there were some weird charges I need to verify."
Right.
Because I know that I'm talking to the real bank because I called you. But when you call me, I don't know. And if they just start trying to verify information, heck, man, with some of these breaches, they have all of that, so they can sound super legit.
Sure.
So and don't ever call a number they give you. Just yesterday, I had a friend of mine who got a call, someone saying they're from Amazon, and they were helping them try to complete a purchase on the account, and they needed them to install a program. They didn't fall for it, but they gave him a number, and he called the number back, and someone picked up, "Oh, Amazon, how can we help you?" Right? So they
Right.
even have people answering the phone with the numbers that they're giving out. So you can't trust it if they give it to you, but if you call a legitimate number, then you can trust it.
Another one I've gotten recently is I'll get an email saying, "Hey, we just charged you $40
Yeah.
for the something you ordered." And of course you go, "I didn't order that. I got to go and get a refund." So then you look at the info on the email. And of course, if you called, my guess is they would say, "Oh yeah, what was the credit card number you
Yep.
put it?" And then you're off to the races.
Yeah. And if you think about that, sounds so legitimate, right? Because if I call into an actual vendor, like if I call my bank right now, they're going to say, "Please verify the account you're calling about."
Right.
They're not going to give me the account. They're going to ask me to verify it. So I'm going to legitimately give them my account number,
Sure.
which could be my credit card. So if I call what I think is my bank and they go, "Hey, to look you up, we need to verify your identity. I need your full name, your account number, your social security." That sounds all legitimate.
Right.
So people will give it over. And what they don't know is that if you didn't initiate that call, there's no way for you to verify that you're speaking to the actual company, the
Right.
actual person.
Right. Right.
So I always say the best practice is you have to initiate the call, unless there's some solid proof, like you're on the phone and they're verifying with you enough that you feel comfortable with that, or they're not asking you for personal details. I still really I'd rather just pick up the phone and call them back.
Agreed. Agreed. We've been speaking with Chris Hadnagy, founder and CEO of Social Engineer LLC. The book is Human Hacking: Win Friends, Influence People, and Leave Them Better Off for Having Met You. Chris, always appreciate your time.
Thanks, David.